want to go first?
We
If
didn't
you wanna-
discuss that. Go ahead. You're fine. You're fine. Go ahead.
All
Okay,
right.
great.
Councilor Romero.
And just for my context, everyone's seen our proposal.
I have the proposal right here, and I made notes for all of them on the project descriptions, so we can pass this through. A couple of you have seen that large proposal, yes. And then I broke that down into the sheet that I gave you guys, so it was easier to see there, the project description. So yes,
Okay, and
they've seen some of them.
just for context, is there a certain time length you'd like me to stay under? Like, I wasn't gonna read every word of the proposal, by any means, but,
Whatever you feel that you need to do today, what you have to offer.
okay, absolutely. Yeah, so I guess to start with introductions, my name is Lukash Hoff-Bruce. I'm a mechanical engineer with Morrison Merrily. A little background on Morrison Merrily, we're a Montana-based engineering firm, spread out through offices across the state. We also have offices in Wyoming, Washington, and Oregon. As a firm, we're actually largely a civil engineering firm, doing engineering work such as roads and bridges and airports, but we also have a buildings division, of which I lead our Missoula group for. And that consists of mechanical, electrical, structural engineers, where our main focus of work is building design, where we primarily work with architects on the
This is right.
design of buildings.
Hello?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm the leader here on the Missoula office for this proposal. We're also partnering with LOSI Architecture and Design to provide architectural services. LOSI is also based in Missoula, and the two founding architects of that are Luke Jackson and Sarah Ayers. We've partnered with LOSI quite a bit over the years. Most recently, we completed the Montana Food Bank with them, which is the big warehouse going right in front of the Coca-Cola building. We worked with them on a myriad of projects, large and small. Really enjoy partnering with them. They definitely provide a personal touch to all their projects, being that they're a very small firm, primarily just Luke and Sarah, and we also have a plethora of experience working within schools.
1 second. Did Ray want to be on speaker for it?
I answered, and he was not there.
No, he's calling me. And I have 2% left on my phone.
Hello? How are you? Uh-huh. Oh. Okay. That's okay. Do you- Not a problem. Do you want us to have him hold off? How far are you?
We're like,
Okay, 5 minutes. Okay. Okay. That sounds great. We'll see you in 5. Thank you. Bye.
for the record, we're pausing for 5 minutes. Sorry.
No problem.
Really killing my first meeting here. He had it on his agenda or his calendar for tomorrow. For some reason, so just a guy will leave my house right this minute. And he said we could continue on because he can go for lunch too, so
Then proceed.
maybe
Okay.
we'll have to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Great.
I know.
Sarah and Luke.
Yeah, so most architecture and design, we're partnering with them on this proposal. And so, I mean, I guess to head briefly into, the scope of work, as we pulled this together earlier this summer, I believe he was the interim superintendent, Greg Upham. We had a conference call with him to kind of help define, what the scope of work was. He reached out to us regarding this, and so, so our proposal is to do a comprehensive facilities review for the school, and we have it broken up into 2 scopes of work. The first being the facilities review, which will consist of initially we'll perform a Matterport scan of the building, which will make use for Albertson School District, but it's also a key tool for us to go back to reference as we're writing our reports. And if you're not familiar, a Matterport scan is a camera that does a 3D scan of the building. You take it in every room, and it allows you to, in the future, kind of walk through the building again and take measurements as needed. And so, with that, we'll gain a lot of minimizing the on-site time that we need, for back trips if, little things come up. But yeah, so along with that, the comprehensive facilities review will involve loci architecture as well as a mechanical, electrical, structural engineer from my firm. And we will evaluate all of the systems within the building. Obviously the architect will be focusing on ADA, criteria, envelope issues, potential envelope issues, while mechanical will be focusing on mechanical systems, electrical, and ultimately we will form a comprehensive report with the condition of these items. And then the second part of our scope of work would be to create a master list of projects from the needs of the school. With this, we'll obviously work with the Alberton School District to have input on ranking those projects and ultimately provide cost estimating and estimated construction schedules and timelines for what those master task priorities would be. Any questions on that so far?
The Matterport stand, is that something that the school can keep forever, or is that just what you guys?
So it is hosted on Matterport's cloud service, and so you do need, so we would host it on ours and keep it active for as long as would be useful, and we're able to archive that and reactivate it at any time. There is a cost associated with having those cloud models. We could also at any time transfer that model to you if you wanted to set up an account with Matterport to host that yourselves. So short answer is yes, but it is somewhat complicated in that it is cloud-based.
And is that just the interior of the school, or is that the exterior of the building as well?
It would have 3D images of the exterior that wouldn't be measurable. So the camera is affected by exterior light essentially, and so it does a full 3D scan of the interior, and then the exterior is more of a 3D photo. That is, you can't measure off of it, but it provides a great reference.
And does that assist with, if we do decide to hang our hat on this building in the long term, facilitate architectural design to, I guess, aid in our ADA compliance issues?
Yeah, absolutely. It can, from the Matterport model, a cloud model can be created from that, which will definitely aid in, my understanding is there aren't a lot of record drawings or as-built of the building, and so a Matterport scan is a great way to start that process of creating an as-built model as you would need to do any sort of, major renovation or design within the building.
I guess this would be a question for, again, if in the school records being that this is a building of historic nature, and the architect, I guess, was it Colin Bacon that was the architect? I think that was his name. Is that maintained anywhere where we have something? There's been significant changes. This wasn't here. This was basketball court at one point. They could facilitate that. I don't know if the school has that stuff sitting around someplace in a closet.
You're supposed to?
Okay.
I mean, of all of the prints and all the blueprints and all of your data, but I have been going through files, and maybe I'm not back far enough yet to have found anything on the upgrades we've made.
The building's 106 years old, so I don't think that would be. I'm just curious if you stumbled across that, which
I have not yet.
facilitate. Okay, thank you.
Patrick,
Yes.
I'll find.
with your permission, I will read what Gemini has to say a Matterport scan is. I think it might be helpful. I lost it. A Matterport scan refers to the process of using a Matterport camera and software to create a detailed, interactive 3D model of a physical space, often referred to as a digital twin. So, and you can create walkthroughs and all kinds of stuff, so.
Thank you.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
most bang for our buck.
Yes. And again, I wasn't, talking to Greg, I wasn't sure what the end goal, like if, that capital improvement plan was, wanted to be part of this immediately, so that is why we have that broken out as a separate, fee within our proposal. But yes, as part of the capital improvement project identification, we would work with you, and again, provide our recommendations on, which projects are most important, associated costs.
So when we list total costs here, that is consolidated between phase 1 and phase 2.
Correct, yep, so phase 1 would be just our site investigation and a report of, existing conditions. And then phase 2 would be to create the capital improvements plan.
Okay, got it. How does we understand price differences? What is your timeline? If we,
How soon would you guys be able to?
Yeah, I think we're available to start, immediately. And I would estimate, once we've, done the site investigation, we'll likely need 3 to 4 weeks to complete the report, the initial phase 1 report. And then, assuming there would be coordination on, priorities for the capital improvement plan, likely another couple weeks after that. Which, depending on your needs, could be accelerated, but, that would be what a typical schedule we would expect for, this scope of work.
as far as doing your site survey, with school starting with kids in 20 days at this point, is that something that can be done after hours or on weekends to survey the school, so it's not disrupting classrooms?
Yeah, absolutely. And is Alberton still a 4-day work?
Yes,
Or
so
Fridays.
Fridays are very good too, that would also,
Yeah.
work very well as well.
Okay. As far as that, do you have any other questions? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to word this. Anything else that you would like to share with us before we?
No, I mean, I think to close out, more friendly as work, on a lot of K through 12 projects. I think we've touched pretty much every school in MCPS, in some fashion, whether it's, full new construction, like the Jeanette Rankin School in Lower Miller Creek, or a small chiller replacement project. We've done similar scopes of work such as this, such as a full equipment inventory for the Kalispell School District, and full HVAC replacement projects for Evergreen School District. Where similar to potentially where we're both very versed in K through 12 work, and we really appreciate the opportunity to submit this proposal. And my wife Maureen Hoff-Bruce was a teacher here 2 years ago, and I have several colleagues that have kids enrolled here, so I really enjoyed the opportunity to help better this community as well.
Well, then I can ask a question further on that. If we did go with the proposal to get to phase 2, does Morrison Maryland help facilitate, and perhaps you answered this and it just went over my head, the administration of construction on here? I mean, so that we can identify it, because we're gonna have to go for a vote on that. It's
Yeah.
not that we can't find it in our touch issues.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, the first steps before that would be obviously establishing the projects and, going through that project process. But, in the event that, a project has gone to construction, we also provide those services as well. And I guess, to be clear, our, capital improvement projects is just the identification of those projects, with like an estimate of what that would entail. It is not the full design and bid procurement and bid documents, for those projects.
Thank you. Let us have it.
Good evening again. Bob Moore with McKin Street. With me tonight is Lo McCahill, McKinstry is a national company. We're based out of Seattle. We have 3 offices, one in Missoula, where a large majority of our staff resides. Then we have about half the size of staff of that in Bozeman. And then we have a smaller office in Billings. Extensively serve K-12 education throughout the state of Montana in design, build, construction, which is, we're essentially taking folks from the identification of facilities improvement measures, rough estimate contracting, up through design, build, where we are managing the project for you. We bid the project for you. We're your owner's representative on steroids. And so we will take you from a evaluation, as we're proposing in our proposal tonight, all the way through recommended facilities improvement measures, and bond support. We pride ourselves in bond support and have a high success rate with helping schools pass bonds. We went 3 for 3 this last election cycle in the state of Montana on bonds and building reserves. So we have a good team. We're proud of our team, proud of our work. So that's McKinstry in general. If you have questions, please stop me. I'd like this to be a 2-sided conversation as we go, but
I do have a question.
yes.
The districts in which you pass bonds, how do those compare in tax base to ours?
Let's see. The there's one school district that has a huge tax base and does not compare well to you.
Fair enough.
Without naming names and naming percentages, but they ran about 96% commercial load on their elections. Some of the more rural school districts where we pass bonds are very comparable in size, extremely comparable in size, and looking at even the far eastern part of the state, you can look at the oil patch. Some are on the edge of the oil patch, don't have a lot of money. The one I'm talking about has an oil pipeline and large oil storage reservoirs. And if you research the papers, you'd probably figure out who that is.
Well, I mean, I know what our bond capacity is.
Right, I do too.
It's not going to carry us very far.
It is not. You are correct. And I've worked with DA Davidson. We do a lot of work with DA Davidson bonding and bond preparation and bond counsel. Dan Simmons with Dorsey Whitney out of Missoula prepares most of the election language. I've been working with Dan extensively in the last week on some ballot language for a school district that's looking at running a bond.
Have you, I'm chasing ghosts on this one. I know OPI was supposed to, in 2017, the legislature eliminated the quality school program for school infrastructure capital improvements. It was supposed to be funded by $200 million pot of money administered by OPI. No one seems to know whether that exists or not. And then to be complemented by USDA grant program for which they would fund 75% of capital improvement projects by districts that have less than 5,000. We check. Have a high poverty rate? Check. Have you, in any of these districts, had similar profile which you have tapped into those USDA funds to fund capital improvement projects?
We have worked with the Department of Commerce and DEQ on grants. Most of those have run through the legislature moved some of those grant resources from DEQ. In this legislative session, they moved some of those grant resources, and so it remains to be seen how that's going to go. And I think I've told you before as a group, the previous leadership at OPI was somewhat reluctant to accept grants and federal funding. The state did put more money and increased the deferred maintenance funds, and so it's an A&B based program. And so would this district qualify to look at grants, and do we have a grant team that can assist with that? Yes, we do. We have a national grants team. Nor and her team monitor those and update grants on a regular basis. We have a monthly meeting where if something new rolls out, we know about it. And presently I'm working on some rural hospital grants that have come through the state. So the money did the money did contract greatly with when the COVID money went away. And so at the present time, there isn't a huge amount of money out there for rural schools. Most schools are relying on bonds and building reserves to get done what they need to get done, which is why we lend a large amount of bond support and communication to the community. Does that answer your question?
It does. Just
Okay.
a little blood from a turnip here.
Okay.
Okay, go on, sorry.
Now where was I? So again, we're a full service design build company, going from facilities, inspection, equipment inspection, asset inspection, all the way through. Our team has been on site. We have other wings of our company. Our service manager has been here and visited your school, looked at your boiler. When Greg said you're having some boiler problems, our service management lives up the road in Dvorak, travels through regularly. And then our engineering team also made a visit and familiarized themselves with your assets in your building as well. For this project, we would be teaming with Oz Architects out of Missoula. Logan has worked with Oz Architects, and I'm going to pause right there and let Logan talk about Oz Architects and their firm.
Yeah, Oz is a architecture firm based in Missoula, Montana, headed by Martin Lloyd, Ginger Palm, Rex Thompson. Just so you know, I did work there one time. I worked there for several years in architecture, working there. And they kind of do work all the way from residential through K-12 schools, a lot of like higher ed, university campus work, and then hospital work. So they kind of have a breadth of experience in these types of projects. So we're partnering with them to be our architectural partner, and so they can do that type of assessment for the ADA and those types of components of this project. Our engineering, we have our in-house engineering teams, and then like Bob said, our model is a little bit different in that we are design to build. It's a little bit more of a direct model versus a traditional like design bid build, which would be kind of probably what most people are used to. You do the drawing, they go out for bid, and then you select a contractor. Well, in our model, we are the contractor as well. So we have a full construction team in-house. Several of them live in Missoula, more in Bozeman, but yeah, so it's kind of it's a little different style of how delivery methods like set up for these types of projects.
Well, I do have a question how to factor in from optics for the public. It almost looks like it's a non-bid contract award where it's like, well, here, that's what the price we're gonna get, and we're accountable to our constituents to, like, well, why did we go out to 3 bids?
Right, and I can speak to that very directly. So design bid build is under Title 20 low bid. So the school is required to accept low bid for anything over $80,000 unless there is a prevailing reason that the board has to document why they would not accept a low bid. Under Title 18 is alternative procurement, which we're talking about, which is design build. And there's a misnomer out there that the project does not go out to bid. That's not true. You would put out an RFQ if you proceeded beyond this and went to some, said we're going to proceed with a design build contract, and I'll go back to what we're going to provide later in my presentation. But you put out an RFQ and you make a selection as a board based on the responses you get. So you're not tied to us in any way at this point in time. And so once you make that selection, you sit down with that company and you negotiate a contract for the design services. If you can't negotiate a contract and you say, okay, we're going to terminate these, you can go to your second-ranked firm and try to negotiate a contract with them. Once you select a design build firm and we put together the design, we send those out to bid instead of, we're providing the bids and you're not held to the low bid process, because low bid is not necessarily always the best bid. But you may say, look, we've got an engineering firm and his wife works at the school. Can we, there's a little nepotism there, I'd be careful of that, but something like that, some reason the taxpayer that lives in your community, you want to use them. As long as we can qualify them with bonding and insurance, there's a prevailing reason to do that. We can use that. You can be as involved or uninvolved in that bid process as you like. But generally speaking, we take low bid because schools, school boards, school administrators are in the hot seat for making sure that you're using the public funds as best you can to make the dollars go as far as you can. So the project does go out to bid, and you can see those bids. We'll show you those bids. We have no problem with that. We'll say, here, we put these out, here are the qualified bids for the mechanical, electrical, plumbing. These are the firms who responded. This is the price. But what we're going through and we're looking at, did they bid apples for apples? Because that's where the change orders start to come in, where you see price escalation. So the design bid process, the school district is at risk for the change order process. And I think I've explained to you in the past, it cost me $100,000 when I was the Stevensville superintendent because they missed the welding gas in the CTE center. Everybody sat around the table and did this, except the architecture firm and said, our fault. We make a miss like that, we're taking the risk on with the guaranteed maximum price. We have a $100,000 miss in our scope of work. We own $100,000, the school district doesn't. So, there are large differences and there are nuanced differences. So if there's a perception that it's not going to go for bid, it's just who is letting the bid is, you have a single contract with us instead of a contract with an architect, an owner's rep, and a general contractor. We take the risk on, we take those contracts and we hold those contracts underneath our business instead of you holding them underneath your business.
To expand a little bit on that, yes, so once we go through the actual, once these, Lukash and us are kind of coming up with these lists of improvements, and then at that point, like Bob said, then, we will do like an RFQ to continue the rest of the work. But, once you pass a bond or however you decide to get your money. At that point, then yes, would be the general. And we've run with schools, we've done full, go out on the state, and bid everything just to any contractor that wants to. And we can do that based upon, if you just want roofing, if you just want mechanical. But if you say, hey, our school works with an electrician, we've also done this as well. We're like, this electrician has worked at our school, we have a contract with them for 20 years. We like the work that we want to, we want to continue that relationship. You have the option to then, we can get a bid directly from that person, or that company, sorry, and use their number, even if we are going to go out for, say a roofing bid, from, 10 companies. And so we allow that to be more, that's something that you can decide, and I've done it both ways, so.
We wouldn't want you to unhook your wagon from somebody that that has knowledge of your building, extensive knowledge of your building, just because somebody else is low bid. And that's in the design bid build process. You're held to the standard of unhooking your wagon, even though it may be uncomfortable, with the exception of what's allowed in state law for architecture and engineering. There's an exception in state law to that under Chapter 20. So.
Does that explain the question a little bit better?
Okay. Moving on. So our proposal, again, Greg asked for some help, and I came out and visited with him, and I brought our engineering team out, and they've done a couple of walkthroughs, and our service manager came out and provided some general assistance. Our proposal, we provide this site visit again and follow up, document your existing facility conditions, do a full facility condition assessment, assess your capital equipment. We won't go through and decide if a cooler is going to last 5 years or 10 years, but we're going to go through your electric panels, we're going to go through your HVAC equipment, we're going to go through your boilers. Those things that you think about that are long-term 20-year, 25-year capital investments for the school district, and provide a report. We'll give you a full report and an architectural and structural report on your building as well. The MEP asset inventory will give you a general conditions report, and then we'll provide the report, the structural assessment findings and the order of magnitude, and finally in that report we'll have what we call a facilities improvement list. And those are things, first thing we're going to identify is what the improvement measure is. We'll work with you to write those things, but we will initially label them as red, yellow, and green, because if you have a life safety issue, it's going to show up as a red. And we're going to label it as a priority 1. You might move it to a different priority, but we're going to make recommendations that we think these are the most critical things that you need to examine as far as your facilities and capital improvements for your school district. And we'll have a rough order of magnitude cost. And then you can pick and choose, you can say all of it, you can say none of it, we can help you try to find money. If it goes to the bond, we'll work with you on bond support. The rough order of magnitude, the more refined and more time we put in, if you say, okay, we're going to go for these things, we want to refine this number down so we're only asking for this much money, we can help you refine that. It costs more money because now we're going to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. Greg asked for a 30,000-foot view. Give me a list of where we need, where our words are, where our pain points and pinch points are, and so our proposal is to give you that in a report with the facility improvement measures and a rough order of magnitude cost.
So rough order of magnitude is included in this bid price?
Yeah.
Can I see that?
Yeah.
So we are talking apples to oranges, or apples to apples here. We have a phase 2 component of yours. Is your phase 2 rough order of magnitude, or is it? Okay, so.
Okay, now if you look at the last bullet on our proposal, I will provide a report, the architectural and structural assessment findings, and a rough order of magnitude cost. With that, I'm done. That's where we are. Thank you for inviting us tonight. I'm happy to be here. We're happy. We hope you do well, regardless who you choose. We feel we're a great company. I work with Summarily. They're a great company. We just hope you do well.
You're both here because of organizations on there. Because this is your third visit here, I would like to keep this balanced. Do you need an alibi for anything else you'd like to share? No. Okay.
The only thing we didn't ask you about was timeline since we.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Timeline, our folks have been on site, and
Yeah.
so, roughly the same order of time. How quick do you want to move? Are you pressing forward for a November election? I wouldn't, you're too close. If you're looking at the spring to look for bond money or a building reserve or something like that, we can adjust our timeline accordingly. We have the bandwidth. I'm not gonna tell you 2 weeks, I'm not gonna tell you 6 weeks. We need to get Oz on site. Our folks will come back on site in a matter of a few weeks. Fridays, I think it's nice that you have a 4-day work week. I will tell you, your 106-year-old building plans, probably 98% likely they reside in the state library. Call Coley Bartow.
Oh, okay.
They probably are not, maybe.
They're not gonna be great.
I know,
Here,
right?
here mitigation.
I would imagine, if Oz comes out, are they going to do like what Loci is
will tell you that when
If-
you look at, when you look at those plans, sorry, there were oftentimes kind of cookie cutter approaches to schools in that age, and so you're gonna get a cookie cutter, not real detailed plan, and your add-ons and changes to the building are probably resident somewhere here in,
There have been many.
right?
Yeah. And as, you know, Prakash knows this as well, when you dig into these old buildings, the drawings are usually pretty sparse, and the building is usually much different than what was drawn.
So I guess from both of you, are we looking for, well, I guess, for whatever proposal, you're gonna tell us, you know, we can throw money at this all day long to do it, but, I mean, are we gonna get an honest assessment of, you guys should probably cut it? That's, I think, an important part of what we're looking for.
I've already had those conversations with our people involved. I demand to go out and look at the east side of your building. I wouldn't park or stand underneath. Personal opinion, I am not a structural engineer.
Fair enough. This one. I'll show you after. So, I mean, and those are, I think, the very serious and questions that people question that we're gonna have to make, and the community's gonna have to decide their buy-in, here real quick. Well, I guess you'll tell us how quick we have to make that buy-in, no question, but is it cheaper to build something on this 25 or 30 acres we
Right.
have across the way, even if that's, you know, the erector set?
And what kind of building would that be that would fit within your bonding capacity, which is limited as we know.
Yes.
Been there, felt these pain points, been sitting in that chair right there, and I understand. But I won't mince any words. If I don't think your building's safe, and they come to me, or somebody comes to me and say, what do you think I should say? You tell them your building's not safe.
I mean, that's,
You know,
they're not threats to the community,
you've
just
got-
like we're gonna be facing.
your children are here.
Yes.
Nobody puts children at risk. Period. Nobody should put children at risk. I shouldn't rephrase that.
Yes. Do you guys have anything else that you want to ask before we move on to the next item? Any? Audience?
Question about when are we gonna decide on this? Do we decide now, like today, now that Leah's here, or do we have to?
Well, we weren't going to vote today, right?
We can't vote today on, those projects are under the $85,000, so we can have those discussions and start, making that decision sooner rather than later. I think we're in a closed session this afternoon, and talk to Betsy just a little bit about that, so. Because at this point, we need to make a decision instead of having to come a fourth time, you know what I mean, and get moving on things. So I hope we have enough information between the five of us from what we got here and some back information to make a decision today.
Actually do a special session next week where you can actually get this all rolling.
We've got a regular board meeting in 2 weeks.
August 12th is the board meeting, so yeah, I mean, that's gonna be here
Yeah,
before you know it,
that's
so that's,
You can
it's
turn that
not,
off.
yes. It's going to be a very long one also, I mean, just because there's a lot of things, but we can make that decision then. And then if there are things that we talk about that we need more questions, I can reach out to either or both and get those questions answered before August 12th too for you guys.
I think you'll give
Yeah.
them some time too to get the public here and that
Yep.
way we can kind of lay out a little bit.
We can do replay because your explanation today, I think, would have assuaged some of the concerns that we heard in previous sessions following the presentation. That would
Yeah, it's-
hopefully change some minds.
It's, once you explain the design build process, the immediate finding that goes up is, what about bids? And that's, it takes a while for that to sink in, for people to understand. It's still, you're still negotiating contracts, and it's still going to bid.
I think we have concerns that blank checks were going to be written, and that's not the case at all.
Not at all.
Yeah, our, you know, like Lukash bids for that, and then we present a guaranteed maximum price. So that's like the all-in.
And the big
price.
thing is, the big thing, the whole issue is making sure that the bids are inclusive of the scope. Excuse me. A lot of times you'll get bids that don't compare apples to apples. And that's our job.
Appreciate you guys coming out and
Thank
Do
you.
you need- They all have a proposal copy, does anybody need a copy?
I have the one copy, and then I can email that all out to everybody's.
If anybody'd like a hard copy, I have lots of papers I can scatter around with business cards. I think everybody has my business card. I know.
And I have
do
both of
copies of the proposal. It'll save you some meeting.
Did I hear you say that you're Maureen's husband?
Yep.
How's Maureen doing?
She's doing great.
Did you guys have a baby?
We did last summer. Lloyd.
How's that
He's great. He's almost walking now. He's a great baby.
I'm sure Maureen will home Brad a lot of substantially all of her she was in his area. Yeah, we miss her. Hopefully, or pass her across again.
Well, definitely mention him.
That can be. See if we can.
Thank you. Okay, perfect, thank you. Okay,
moving on to our second discussion item. Next steps, highway superintendent Amanda Steer for.
I gave you guys email copies of all this, I know it was a lot of information. But I also, did you see the breakdown, did anybody get a chance? I know you guys were talking about it. Looking, Hatton couldn't be here tonight, she's planning on doing an open house, but she broke down the survey in a 65-page document for everybody. And then I took it,
I have some feedback.
I took it and broke the questions down into like the top priorities or the top things that popped up kind of for you guys to make it a little easier. I don't know if you want copies of either or both of those. Unfortunately, I think the biggest thing is the 10%. You know, we got 10% of the community to respond to. So I think that was a little disappointing. But there was still a lot of feedback as to some major things that we really need to look at this school year and how we want to move forward with that. Obviously, we started the process with our facilities. We know we need to take some extra steps there, but there are some big concerns. It looks like in the community overall with, I would say, our facilities, our funding issues, our enrollment. I got a lot of feedback, or I saw in there, you know, just the dropping of programs. So now, what are we going to do to bring those programs back? And opportunities for our middle and high school kids. There was a lot of mention in that. So looking at our schedule, what are we going to do to make those changes to? We're probably not going to bring those kids back that are already in high school, but to keep those kids here from elementary and middle school because we're going to have the same opportunities, or as many opportunities as we possibly can. So, and there was a number of information about staffing and struggles with staffing, and we are fully staffed, which is good. But when we go into closed session, we'll talk a little bit more detail about some of the staffing things that came up that I took off of the one I printed out because there's some specific personnel things in there. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in closed session. But how can I, and then with your help, build that culture back up here? I mean, there are struggles that we see from the community and lots of conversations with the staff of, are we doing what's best for the kids in the community of Alberton? There's room for improvement, and I want to be a part of those, you know, but I need your help, I need staff's help, and we need to, I think we need to bring that commitment back. I fear that, I believe everyone's here for the right reasons, but it reads that we're not. And so how do we bring that commitment back from our staff that we are here for every single kid in this building and doing what's best for them and finding the education that each kid needs? And I mean, that's our number one priority as educators. That's what we're here for, is kids first. So, I felt like the survey had some good information that we've got some work to do on that. And I'm trying to play around with some ideas on how, I don't wanna go into my first staff meeting, like a bowl in a china closet, but, you know, you and I were in a meeting, Ray, and we'll talk about this as well. We are a comprehensive needs school. We're in the bottom 5% of the state for our test scores, for our ACTs, for graduation rates. There's a number of things like that. That's not who Alberton wants to be, and I want to help change that. And I need a staff that's committed to doing that also. And there are going to have to be changes to instructional practices and curriculum. And again, I don't want to be a bull and come in here and try to change everything at once, but I truly believe that there's some changes that we're going to have to make. And how do I get people on board for that? I know everybody's here for kids. That's why you become a teacher. But you can't stay here and do this. We got to go here for our kids. And so how do we make those changes and get everybody on board? And I don't have that answer, and I'm playing around with a lot of things for PIR days because I want to go in and build relationships. That's what I have to do first, is I have to gain trust of our staff, but I also, we have to hold people accountable, and we have to move forward in the right direction. And so I want to do that in the right way, you know, because we want to keep the staff we have, but you see that there are a number of parents that are concerned about that right now, and concerned about our educational things that are happening. So I'm open to suggestions, and I'm going to take that from our staff also. I want to hear, where are they at? What do they think? What do they need in their classrooms to do the best they can for our kids? And we're working on curriculum, which is a great thing. We now have a math curriculum, we now have ELA curriculum, and we just bought a science curriculum for 7-12. I mean, so we are making those steps, and now we have to put those things into practice. The professional development was mentioned often. I'm very excited to say that the Montana Reads Grant, that is my number one priority with that, is professional development to help these teachers with their curriculum and help them with those instructional practices to meet the needs of all learners, because we have learners in every corner of the world. Every district does, you know, and so how do we meet the needs of those learners and be there to support them, whether it's a trade school, whether it's college, whether it's going into the job force, all of those things once they get out of here. So I was hoping for a little feedback from you guys too. Hatton wants to be here at open house to have kind of a table as to what do you guys have for visions and those kinds of things. So she wants to be here to answer questions. We also wondered about opening the survey back up because we got 100 responses. Is that who we're going to have at open house? Or will we get more responses or more people in if we have iPads sitting here for people to do that right when they're here? You know, it's a 5-minute survey. How can you help us out here?
So I have some, so the survey when I took it, I felt it was very guiding in a certain way. It was not as open-ended as it could have been.
Yeah.
So it's going to give you a certain result. At this point, I don't know how much more. I don't know that we're getting our how much Hatton is costing us back right here. It seems to me that other than like an initial Facebook and text message that was on there, we have 968 email addresses that were going out. Has she knocked on doors? Has she made phone calls? What is going on there? Because 101 responses out of 968. Well, and I understand there could be overlap because it could be multiple emails for a single household.
Yeah.
So that isn't sort of out there. But this is offensive. And I can tell you right now, 50% of the interview respondents are in this room that I'm aware of. I don't know if anybody else did an interview with her, but there's 3 people in this room that I know did an interview with her. I am offended. And also that I'm extremely disappointed in our staff that we did not have 100% staff response to this. I'm beyond disappointed in our staff for not having 100% response rate.
That's part of that next step is we meet them and we need real feedback from them to know where they're feeling with things, but take the extra 5 minutes and fill that out. I 100% agree with that. Hatton and I, just so you know, next step is she has reached out to a number of community members. We only have 2 interviews set up right now to meet with people that first week in August. That's when she was available to go. She's got phone calls in and emails in, and the next step is knocking on doors.
Hopefully, 'cause
Yeah.
I know
And-
multiple names that I provided,
Mhm.
and I know you provided names, and guessing they're either on that list or didn't respond or
Okay.
didn't care.
Yeah.
So, I'm just, at this point, I'm just disappointed. This is it, because from what I'm reading through, there's nothing in here that I didn't know. In fact, this is probably largely based off of the 6 interviews on
Yeah.
there. This is an echo chamber feedback at
Mhm.
this point. We all know these things.
Right.
And
I think it's also having the opportunity there. I know if we didn't have this, there would be some upset people.
100%, I mean, this is a necessary step. I just think it needs to be done in totality, not for what appearances are at this point.
Mhm.
I'm sure there is much more to be done,
Yes.
but at this juncture, I'm gonna call this not even phase 1, I'm gonna call this phase 0.5. It's, more needs to be done to complete phase 1.
And I'm looking forward to meeting with her in person. We Zoomed and talked, and we've talked on the phone also, but to really sit down and look at that, because I was under the impression that open house was the start of phase 2 and the start of school, and we're still in the survey and getting feedback and those kinds of things, and I think open house will be a good time to do that, whether it's with this survey or just asking a couple of big questions to people. But that was my plan, was knocking on doors and wandering around to these businesses and just introducing myself as to who I am. And so I'll go with her, the couple she has, and then I have the rest of the list there. But that's just me trying to, engage with the community just a little bit so people know who I am.
I appreciate you. That's
Yeah.
fantastic. We're gonna get there. What I found, because we did an outreach via the robotics program at Reliance, for people that have students here and people that were from Frenchtown and Superior, they were absolutely stunned that we have this. They were stunned that there is the job skills competition, Skills USA, that we are a chapter here for the state. It's just like there was a lot of surprised individuals that I think for many in the community, perception is the reality. And the reality is that we have a lot to offer here that people don't even realize that we have to offer here.
Yeah.
And I guess it's all in marketing on here.
Right.
Something else that I would like to see on here is, I know we have a relationship with the University of Montana for taking college classes, but we don't have the same relationship that Frenchtown or Sentinel or Big Sky or that where these kids and I know our curriculum is evolving. We only have so many staff members on here, but we can overlap. But why can't we have kids graduating with an associate's degree that covers all of their basic studies? They've eliminated a year, if not 2 years of college, should they choose to go that way, or even if they go to Montana College and go to a trade school.
Yeah.
They've covered all of those things and then jump right in to what's going to feed them.
Yep.
Those are things that I feel strongly that we get that more formal relationship, and how do we make that happen? Yes, but it's also, it's in this message. The community was blown away. Oh my God, you have this? And I did a lot to well, who doesn't have this? The school, 15 miles that way, 30 miles that way. And I think there were people that were, it may have changed their minds about coming here. We found a new mentor to add to our first Lego League, which will introduce programming and all of these skills into our lower elementary grades, which is a feeder on there. These are all things that, we have. Not all these other schools have it.
Right.
So, I don't know, I just feel like we don't get the benefit of the doubt by the community and the outside community. It's always like, look at those guys.
Well, and I asked Kara that question, and she said we do have some of that pathway with the University of Montana. Because I said I went to French John's graduation because my son graduated, you know, and I didn't know about the big pathway that they had. And Kara said, we have that, we just need to do a couple extra things. Well, what are those extra things? Her and Rachel and I are actually meeting to look at the high school and where we're at, and we're meeting next week about that.
I want us to show up on the
Classes
university's
too.
webpage where it says
100%.
we are a participating school.
Yes.
When I go there now, I'll put this out on there. Despite having seen our graduates, some of them graduating with 30 college credits
Right.
on here. Well, that's a different relationship in this program. So, yeah, you're trying.
It's going to take some time, but yeah, there's lots of things to dig into there, so that's working on.
Well, that's my feedback on
Yeah.
that.
I'll tell you, whenever I've done surveys, and I don't know why I didn't tell Hatton this, I hate I don't have to pick a side. Either agree or disagree with something, because you look at those first 10 questions, you know, that are broken down there. Neither agree nor disagree is anywhere from 10 to 30% of people. Well, that does not help me with a survey. You know what I mean? And I know there's a couple of things in there, but you should be able to make a decision. Our staff and students take pride in our school. To say 17% of them to say, I don't know, is not a good thing, you know? Even if they disagree, I'd rather know that they disagree than just
Well,
stay neutral.
perhaps we recast the survey with it being a binary choice.
And I wish I would have thought about that, because that's kind of how we did the surveys there, and I didn't. But, I mean, the high expectations, 27% of the people say neither agree nor disagree. I'd rather you tell me you disagree and that there are not high expectations and we need to work toward those. You know, that's just a small thing for me, but that was one of the things that stood out. There were a lot of things about after-school programs, you know, those kinds of things too that the community was looking for. And that's another piece of the Montana Reach Grant, that we have the opportunity to start Friday program, to start after-school programs, summer programs, those kinds of things, tie in more of the robotics and the skills and those kinds of things, I think, with some of those funds, and pay our staff, pay community to come in and do that. We just need to, again, get the word out, because it seems that there are many people that don't know those things are happening. So how do we get the word out to say, yes, that's a survey that I would like to do, but I worry about throwing too many surveys out. Would you rather a summer program, a Friday program? What would it look like? You know, those kinds of things. But you need feedback from the parents to get those things started. So how many surveys do we continue to throw at the community if only 10% of them are answered?
Well, you said something very key there, the parents that care. I think some of the stuff we're gonna talk about later and that we're reflecting on here is, I mean, I wanna say everybody loves their children and cares about them, but if you're not involved in your kids, I would say our most highest performing students throughout our district are those where they have active involvement of in a supporting loving home.
Mm-hmm.
And not everybody has that, and it reflects. And I think we have probably an unusually high proportion of that is our population by comparison to the rest of the state of Montana. And it's reflecting. And I think we are getting short end of the stick because of that.
Yeah.
It's not that we're not trying, it's not that we don't care.
Right. Alberton's not unique in that, though. Unfortunately, that family structure, you're seeing that everywhere. I mean, and at every district. I think it's just partly because of the size, you know, and so you're going to see it more. And I wonder, will that Friday program bring some of those parents in? Because there are parents that are looking for something for their kids to do on Friday, other than a second or third grader going home by themselves because mom or dad have to work. You know, so I think that could be a big program to start pulling in and helping out a little bit in the community. And then it gives those kids that are sitting in front of a screen for a third day instead of 2 more opportunities to do robotics and to do tutoring and to do those things.
I fully agree, and especially with kids that we've identified that might need additional assistance
Yep.
in specific categories, if we can help patch those holes in that Friday. So that is an application for a 5-day school week, but it would be, I guess, almost an optional 5th day, especially for those that might need that. They get a safe environment and they might
if we can figure out, how to feed them on those Fridays too, I just think that's so important for those kids that need that, in so many different communities, you know, and so I don't know how that ties in yet with the Montana REITs grant for food. That's on my list of questions for Rachel Gott, because even could our assistant cook come in and make peanut butter and jelly sandwich? You know what I mean? Like, to feed them, and that gets people here as well, as we know.
Food from the food
Yeah.
bank.
Yeah, and that could possibly be the option also, is just those Friday, packs. Yeah.
But a lot of our staff are drawn to our 4-day weeks, so who would we get to do those things on a Friday?
I would think you're gonna have, hopefully, I can't answer this completely, Paris, and then you're going to have, I've had a few staff already talk to me about it that would do a Friday a quarter or a Friday a month. And so I think hopefully they don't have to come every single Friday, and if you're paying them, you're going to get some of your classified staff in that'll want to help, and then you have some staff that are really big on maybe robotics or a certain topic that they would be happy to come and present on. And so you make those Fridays look different, so you get people in. And I've had a few people say yes. I haven't talked to everybody on that, but yeah,
Well,
it is a question for sure. And at that point too, community, is there a community or parents that you can pay? I mean, you know, to come in, and that's where I know programs that I had at my previous school was a lot of your classified staff, because they want the extra hours, they need that extra money. And so, hoping that maybe that will tie in for some of them.
well, because I know we have that staff pick up part-time work at our district who come in on Fridays and or Saturdays on there, and I know this is generality, if we're looking at our district, because we have a 4-day school week, we effectively pay 20% less than a 5-day school
Yeah.
week on there. There's teachers that, well, yes, that's nice, they are picking up other work, they do the professional teaching. If we are able to make up that 20% for whatever days they come in, I think that I'd rather come here and
Then,
do
Gotcha.
what you signed up
Yes.
for, than pick up a side hustle that frankly might not interest you, or you're doing it out of necessity because
go ahead.
Sorry, I thought the issue was that we couldn't pay extras, that's why we had to cut some parents and stuff like that.
So the Friday school will be through the Montana REITs grant, so it's not a general fund budget, we can't pull anything out of there. Yeah, you're like, how, and so that will have to be something that will be made very clear, this is grant funds. Kind of like your 21st century after school program was, grant funds are paying for this, and so yes. We do not have extras to pay people coming on Fridays. Yeah. So yeah, that's a great question. And that's figuring out, you know, what you pay them to make them want to come in also, and what you can from the state. You know, $25, $30 an hour, is that enough to get teachers in here? Mhm. It will be for some of your parents, I do know that. Yeah. I've actually hired a couple that have already asked about that, so after school programs. Yeah. Mhm. And we can buy all the supplies and all the things for that also, so the different groups or the different Friday schools will be able to buy them. The curriculum or the supplies, you know, yeah. Mhm. And that's kind of the fun thing too, I think you can do some tutoring and some specific classwork stuff, that you're gonna get more kids in here if you do some kind of a cross-curricular project in Unit for All that encompasses math, and you throw in art and crafts and, you know, those kinds of things also to make it a little more interesting across the board. The robotics, those kinds of things, so yeah. So, let's see if there was anything else on, any other big ticket things that you guys saw? Like I said, I'm meeting with Hatton on the 4th, and then we've got a couple of community interviews, and hopefully we'll have more there. Anything else on that you guys noticed or wanted to talk about?
There was, I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about it now or later, there was some comments that mentioned, it says, many things my child has been taught I do not approve of and would not have had them participate in. And there's other comments saying political and agenda things and religion.
And religious activities and those kinds of things?
Like
Yeah.
that. I've never heard
you know, the indoctrinating of kids. I mean, you see it on the news, you see it everywhere, so are people taking that? Or are there certain things happening in classrooms? And I think that's another thing that you have to have an administrator that's in the classrooms and knows what's going on, but you also have to have a parent that's gonna call and say, hey, like, why were they talking about this in the classroom? Because they're hearing the kid's side, what really was being taught that day. You know, I mean, your middle high school, they do teach some religion because it's part of our history, and especially the ancient civilizations and those kinds of things. So is it something like that that they picked up, or what is it? And how do you find that next step that, who was that parent that said that, or the 5 parents?
Yeah, it was a few.
Yeah.
I was like,
Well, I think perception is reality, and, I mean, you need to have a day-to-day time, because otherwise.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did see a lot of it. I mean, it was an election year last year. Lots of political coffee mugs, lots of T-shirts, lots of open discussions about these are the candidates that I support and this is why. There was a lot of that stuff happening in the school. Oh yeah,
oh, I don't know.
and
That's illegal.
It is.
all over the
state.
place.
There
Per-
are specific staff
Oh, yeah.
members, yes,
So maybe they,
I can't get it.
Per policy and per state law, well, and that's, I guess maybe that wasn't presented because that's every election year you go through that policy and you go through that information with staff and remind them of their expectations.
That was not communicated last year.
And then if you have people that are not in classrooms that don't know, I'm not in the classroom kind of thing, so I can see what's happening, and so mostly so I can back up like what you were doing well and good things, but also, you know, to question and to be there for those instructional practices. So that's my principal piece of that I am looking forward to.
There are
But-
so many of those little housekeeping pieces that have just kind of fallen by the wayside, and it gets to the point sometimes where it feels like the agenda becomes personal. Start walking in, I'm like, well, my kid said this, and my dad or my school board member, and you know, am I just throwing all this weight, you know, my kid, and it just they never really end, right? And so I think some of the issues have been taken care of probably just by attrition or you know what have you, but yeah, those are real, definitely. Yeah.
And that's an easy one to have conversation with your staff because they actually have to sign off on the staff handbook that says that in there. And you know what I mean, but then you just have to
We need to tell them that we need to be reminded.
reminder of those things, you know, yeah.
It's not just staff, it's,
Yeah.
our hourly employees as well.
100%, yep. And then, and at times, kids come in and they wanna talk about things and they're talking amongst themselves and a staff member says something, they have to stop, you know, like, I mean, they're just, those are things that need to be talked about in a staff meeting before an election year and get the right things out there. But- Good to know.
Anything else? Anything else to contribute there before we move on?
After this,
And like I said, we have a couple of things in closed session, just because there were a couple of specifics that were mentioned, that we chose to take off of there, because I want it to be a document that if any staff member wants to look through this, they certainly can, but there weren't specific names, but there were certain grade levels, and there were certain, you know, subjects, so that obviously it's pretty easy to figure out in a small school, and so just for personnel reasons and personal keeping, those kinds of things, I'll talk to you guys a little bit about it in closed session, but, anything else about that, or where we're at, or your thoughts on next steps with our strategic planning that I can do, or I can help,
Just
or questions for Hatton when I meet with her?
if we can't increase our response rate, what is a plan to increase our response rate? I mean, have we thrown in the towel on that, we're gonna call it good? Or again, to your point of, we don't wanna have survey exhaustion, but I agree or don't agree, or neutral choices do not help us at all. I mean, to me, that's like you're doing fine, and I don't care. But at the same time, I think deep down everybody has an opinion of it.
Right.
Does make it more difficult. That's the easy way out in the question.
with a couple iPads here
Be huge.
during open house would be super simple.
I also think there's some people that don't wanna do the survey and sit down, maybe there'd be something quick that they can write and drop in a box, maybe for those who are like, nah, I don't have
Just a
time.
paper like your top 5 questions or something, and then leave a comment if you want to.
Yeah,
That's a great idea. That would take them while they're eating.
yeah.
They can just take that piece of paper and fold it up.
Like, no.
Paper copies of it as well.
Or abbreviated.
Or abbreviated. I mean, yeah, there were a lot of comment questions, you know, and I went through and I just deleted all the ones that said NA or nothing, or, you know, there was a lot of that, and, which is fine, but. I think the survey is still open, so then you would get new looks here, but, yeah. That's another survey that we have to do. Was there any talk with you guys about a graduate profile during accreditation that you remember?
We have discussed the profile of the graduate over and over and over again, I feel like for years. Like, what do we expect kids to look like, and we filled them out, and I can remember 3 administrations ago, sitting in here, and it was touchy-feely, and put words on the wall, and stuck stuff up, and what do you think a graduate should look like, and I believe we even had an email survey that we filled out about that.
Does anybody know where any of that went? That's part of our accreditation process. So we have a couple of things that not a couple, I have a number of things I have to clean up on the accreditation that were not done last spring or not turned into the state. So I looked on our website, I looked through our staff portal.
Have you talked to Chris?
Chris took it all, and we had all of that, so he probably threw the laptop in the river too,
Well,
so.
it was supposed to be turned in April by him and was not.
Yeah.
And so I'm just thinking that, do we start fresh? And that is a specific, you know, what is a profile of a learner, profile of a graduate, you know, what skills do we want Alberton kids to have when they leave? And I think we can tie it in with our strategic planning as we're moving forward, but it's something that I have to create and send to them because we're out of compliance with accreditation on a number of the components right now. So I'm looking for data on a couple of the other ones, but I was wondering if you guys recognize graduate profile. So you heard something about it, it just,
Multiple times.
Oh, yeah.
okay. How about you guys? Did you guys ever have to do anything that you remember, sorry? Just staff, because that's a question I have for them as well.
No,
Okay.
I don't remember, not this last year.
Okay.
I did it as a community member parent, I know, when we first came.
Okay. But nothing to the staff this year? That you remember, okay.
If you reach out to Jeff Curtis or David Drosser,
Yeah.
they might also remember that or remember where it was stored.
Yeah.
Because I think we did it under both of the banners as well.
Okay.
Does
Okay.
it have to be renewed, like, every so often, or it's just a one-time thing?
It was just a finalized copy and it was like a 2-year process, so that's why Damien might know something about it. And then it was supposed to be finalized this year. We were supposed to turn them in January. It was due January 26th for every district in the state. And then there's a couple emails I have found that it's due April 15th for your district. Please get this in, and then another one, and then so.
Well, I feel like Jeff also had a bit too.
Something
So
going
I
with
think
just
it went through there and then.
Okay.
Then we had a lot of transition.
Well, and I don't want to reinvent the wheel and start, you know, make people go through all of this again, but
It might be sitting on a hard drive someplace.
Chris told me he had all of it.
okay,
and It's probably just gone.
okay.
You should look,
Okay.
definitely, fulfill that drive, but
Okay.
yeah, Chris
Okay. Well, he did say.
Chris
we reached
stole
out.
about $75,000 from us last year. That was his salary.
You're being recorded.
I'm okay with that. I truly am.
I think part of it, you know, in April or whenever I was hired, I think that kind of, I noticed a lot of things on the checklist that were supposed to be done these days that were not. So we're cleaning up, and that's my next thing on here is policies, just so you guys know, policies have not really been updated. I mean, there've been a few here and there, through your guys' years, like at board meetings, you guys should be updating policies probably 5 to 8 a month, every month. And, I was cleaning up our handbooks and had to tie into a policy, and it was from 2009. And there, you know, so that's another cleanup that I'm working on, so you guys are gonna see a lot of policies from me this year, that it's just, it's state law things that came through from our legislative session, and then just cleanup that we wanna make sure we're following. If we have something in our staff handbook, I can't discipline somebody if our policy, or, not that I'm gonna discipline, like that was the wrong one to use, but like, I can't follow through with something if the policy says something different than what our handbook. So there'll be, you guys are gonna see a lot of policies coming through, just to warn you, and I'm trying to figure out the easiest way to get them to you, so you can, you know, kind of look through, so we don't have to sit here and talk about every single one of them at a board meeting, but you guys have eyes on them. So some of them are very small things, but some of them, there have been some big changes in our legislative session, the last 2 sessions, that need to be updated. Our cell phone is a perfect example. Our cell phone policy is, I'm gonna hand that to you guys. That's the perfect one I wanna start with. Our handbook says that they are not allowed to have them at all. Our policy says something different than that, and we don't do either of the things. And so I wanted to touch base, and that's on my list of things I wanted to touch base with you guys, where you guys sit with cell phones, what you guys wanna do, because I've heard often they want me to follow the handbook, but if it doesn't follow policy, and if it's not approved by you guys, I can't. So,
We have to be compliant with state law.
and state law, but the state law with the cell phones, they do give districts options to kind of make their own choices there. Do we want kids to have them in the classroom? In our handbook, it says they're not allowed to have them during the school day. Our cell phone policy is pretty blank.
We did, I'm wondering, I mean, I feel like we changed some things last year and we adopted it, but
Did you adopt what it says on the backside?
At this
Is
point,
that-
I don't recall, it's been some meetings. My concern is that as you are finding out from drinking from the fire hose, that years, decades of negligence through apathy or lack of skill set has brought us to this point, and we're playing catch up.
Yeah.
We have a huge hole to dig out of,
Mhm.
and that's why we have sought someone out that's long-term and has the skill set to do this, because we became aware of just what a hole that we are in across the board. And
I'm gonna go through I'll go through board meetings from last year.
We did adopt another cell phone policy that mirrored the governor's recommendation.
You did, okay, so you adopted it, so maybe that's part of it. Also, they didn't take the next step to upload them to our policy on the website. So you adopted new policies, and does that make sense? And then,
Did you adopt the policy or approve the handbook though?
We adopted the policy, we
Okay.
voted on it specifically, and it was, like I said, it was,
I bet it's this one right here, that's exactly what was adopted by many districts last year.
yeah, his initiative, and so, but 2 times though it came up, so in the beginning of the school year, it was enforced, and the kids had no access to their cell phones, and then probably by about Christmas, started getting texts from the kids during class times again, and saying what's going on with cell phones, and they'd just laugh, and they'd say the teachers aren't enforcing it.
Right.
And so it became a teacher versus student thing. And I don't know where that breakdown was. I don't know if it was the teachers weren't supported. I don't know how it all broke down, but that's how it happened. And then all of a sudden, just all at once, it started up again where kids had no access to cell phones again. But then by the end of the school year, it kind of slowly worked back to where the kids were using cell phones in class again. So it was something I think that, you know, historical precedence anywhere in the world shows that it just was something that, you know, it had a head full of steam at certain points, and then
Yeah.
it just kind of was like, not today's issue.
Okay.
I, for one, feel very strongly about the kids not having cell phones in school, and I would support that. You know, of course, they can access them in their lockers and all that kind of stuff, but, yeah, I have very And I think if you look at the, a lot of the consensus points and bullets of this survey, I would suggest that cell phones in class might alleviate some of those concerns that parents have about the quality of education that's being delivered, et cetera, et cetera.
It was one of the big ticket items for my middle high school, the middle high school teachers, like, we want a cell phone policy that is enforced, but it's also on them as well then, if they're not going to enforce it in their classrooms, there's only so much that you can do and I can do, but it's on my list to talk to them about. I will look at the fall board meetings and see if I can get the exact policy, and I will update it on our website, so those are all cleaned up there. And I'll do that before I give you guys the 60 policies that I thought I was gonna have to show you, so I'll start there and see what I can find.
I suspect the teachers, when they feel supported by administration outside, because when you're costing instruction time for other students, fighting battles that should be fought by someone else, there's a point where it's like, okay, I'm not dying with this hill, I have other things to do. And they chose the battle that they were going to do, and
100%.
and some kids that are able to overlook that or are hyper rule followers probably stuck to the letter, and others that are suffering and their grades reflect that are those that chose not to do what needed to be.
Lock boxes are another option that a lot of districts went to, like homeroom class, they actually told the kids either turn them off in your locker, leave them in there and they have to be in your locker turned off, or you put them in a lock box for the day. There are a number of districts in our superintendent group that, and I mean, you buy them for a couple $100 on Amazon, and then the teachers have that option to put them in for the day.
Well, in lockers, I guess if it's on there, the halls are view camera, if it's spot check, we have kids checking out to use the restroom, if they're going out to their cell phone, it's like, then you don't get it in your locker either. You can't have it on school property.
Yeah. So I will look at the kind of the policy on how it's supposed to be followed too.
You know, we had teachers that, despite having no cell phones, encouraged music in class on earbuds.
Kind of defeats the purpose.
Right, and so there's these really conflicting ideologies kind of going around up there, you know, which I know, like, in terms of our household conversations, you know, kind of got me going down that hole. It's like, well, first it's cell phone, but no, listening to music in class is even almost worse. And so wait a minute, and what battle are you even fighting when if you just take the cell phones away? We're not even having this discussion.
Right. Okay.
And, you know, I think that that's probably part of our closed session is, you know, I mean, really, like, teachers encouraging the use of earbuds for music in class? Wow, what are you teaching?
Where's the instruction?
Yeah, what are you teaching?
Again, in the being in classrooms and being able to support teachers, but also to be able to see those things and then
Yeah.
for the kids to see
And we
eyes
hope
in there also.
we need education and love too, so I mean, I'm sure it's just a lack of that, but, you know.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. I appreciate that very much.
Right.
Yes.
Just for another point of view on that,
Yep.
my son, he has ADD, he has trouble focusing on his work. So specifically when like all the other kids are being really noisy, he cannot, like, if he forgets his earbuds, he can't do his work. Especially, like, he has to take medication already, but then on top of it, if he is, all these things are, the kids are laughing and joking, or he can't do his work. And there's some teachers that let him do that after instruction during work time.
Right.
There's times where he's just like, Mom, I forgot my earbuds and I didn't get anything.
Mm-hmm.
And he can't help it.
Gotcha.
I don't know if that has to be part of a 504 or something like that. But yeah, if that's taken away from him specifically, he will not be able to.
I guess, does it have to be in your run with music, or can it be noise canceling headphones where it's just silence?
I don't know.
Because that's the same thing, there isn't a disruption
Right.
for that. And I'm not discrediting it, I have the exact same issue.
Yeah.
Oh, no, yeah,
I can't
there are
listen
lots
to
of kids
any
that,
work, but
yeah.
he's just come a long way.
So if,
Failing to being able to see doctors and then with the earbuds and
Mhm.
Well, shouldn't students like that either have an IEP or a 504,
Possibly,
He
yeah.
had a 504.
and that's where you should be able to write something in. Maybe it asks, does he play music when he's,
He asks permission first,
Yeah.
and
well,
it's not during
I
instruction.
mean, there are music players that aren't cell phones.
Yeah.
I mean, there were, I don't know.
Yeah,
if you find them. I got 3 or 4 of them and they don't work.
Okay.
This, something,
So many things, sorry guys, I feel like I'm going through a ton of things with everybody. What else? The prevention specialist, have you guys heard anything about that, about the DUI task force? I just got an email today from Wayne Cushman about going no outside containers at all sporting events in Monroe County. You guys heard nothing about this? There was a letter that was sent to Greg and to Chris in April that he just forwarded it to me and asked if Alberton was on board. St. Regis and Superior, sorry, both were adopting something at their district. I'll give you his letter so you guys can see that. See, I felt so bad making so many copies today. But what they're saying is people bringing in alcoholic beverages in their water bottles to sporting events, especially football games, I guess have been a big problem. And so they are asking school districts to say no outside containers. And the task force will help set up signs, and if there are games, help enforce that. Do some parent communication if you're interested in looking at that at Alberton.
like task force and we're having uniform police to go in and
Yes.
write citations for people that don't have.
Or, yeah, you will leave if you don't put that away. Where did I?
I guess, how do they?
Here's the letter. Here is the letter from them, and so apparently the other 2 districts did go ahead and adopt that. I don't know how you feel about it. I don't know if you feel that there's a problem. I bring my water bottle with me to every game that I go. I mean, I always have, but I always put water in there. You know, I'm sure there are plenty of people that don't. And so, has it ever been a problem here in Alberton at a football game that something happened? I don't know.
Well, I think as long as you have a place to fill up in your water bottle. Premises, I think you could do that. I believe that's handled with basketball, but I don't know that we have, we have garbage spigot over there.
Just we know outside water bottles, like,
Yeah, it
Water bottle
says.
every single game.
Yeah, as do I.
because we're all, it's on the team.
I mean, all of us have, you take it everywhere you go now because, so I'm not for or against it, but I said that I told Wayne and
I suppose if it was like
Anna,
TSA, where you can bring it through empty
yeah,
and you fill it up on the other side, but it would still be a rough sell.
100%,
You're just gonna shake that water bottle at the door.
yeah.
Nobody wants to do that. 'cause
And
there's
who has,
confrontation.
you're not gonna put that on Josie Schaefer as the athletic director to do something like that, you know, and is that how you want me to spend my time? And, so again, I'm not for or against it because I can see both sides of it, but I said I would share it with the board for something for us to discuss and think about going forward. I don't know, I mean, it'd be a great question for Josie, has it been a problem at a football game, like where you could tell someone was intoxicated? I don't know.
It hasn't been a problem at a football game, but we did have a teacher that got put on a administrative watch list or something like that a couple of years ago for showing up to the games intoxicated. Their children were playing, and they would show up intoxicated, and it was Superintendent Dressler that wrote the teacher up for that. It was a thing, and I don't know. I think they were drinking in the parking lot, but outside of that, you know, they never actually caused any problems. But they were drinking on the premises, so. I don't know.
not a big hill for me right now, cause I think we have plenty of other hills that we are working
I
on.
think if anything, you say, hey, there's nothing here, even though there is no alcohol, no tobacco, no firearms policy everywhere. But if they made a notice of it, and if Mineral County and the state patrol feel the need to do a checkpoint outside, that's on them. That's
Right.
not what the,
I would rather they did that, to be honest.
Yeah. Put it back on them just a little bit. Do they come, do deputies come to basketball, football games here?
one that has kids here.
As a child,
Oh, okay.
years ago.
Okay.
But not formally, no.
Yeah, okay.
But, you know, it seems like for the last couple of years, like every Friday night, there is a patrol officer in town
Okay.
set up, I think more for probably the bars, but
Yeah.
they do tend to have a presence.
Okay, I'm good putting that on hold for now and just kind of, and I'll be at games this year, I mean, that's my plan, Josie and I were just talking about that, you know, so just being there and seeing what's going on. And it says in our handbook, having an administrator there along with the athletic director, so, her and I have already talked about one game that I will be out of town for the weekend, but the rest of it looks pretty good for the fall, so I'm planning on it. You know, I'm not afraid to address if you notice somebody, that there's an issue, but,
Forgive me, who's Mike Cashman?
No, I don't know that person.
he's the head of the DUI task force for Mineral County.
There's only one law enforcement agency in Mineral County, and he's not the sheriff. So
No.
Here is
They've got the signs of the or
Drew the short straw.
Anna Shrek, is that how you say her last name? Her and I met, she came down to just talk about some different things with what Mineral County has to offer, and this was the first thing that she talked about in this. So she had to send me the email, so I don't know who Wayne is yet either. I should probably go down to Mineral County Courthouse and introduce myself to the sheriff and those kinds of things. Add that to my list of people to meet.
Ask him to burn somebody on government gas and his government paid car to come down and visit you.
Yeah. I think those are my only big ones. We have started the Montana Reads grant, started a little information. We hired an interventionist teacher, so we're kind of moving through. We got a little bit of money in there, and we'll get more money in October to really start hopefully a Friday or an after-school program. So we're kind of working on what that's going to look like. What's in there, so we're excited to have that money. Will be in the bank October 1st, most of it. So yeah.
Oh, I just have to remember.
Yeah.
Maybe for the, like, open house where we have, like, testing or whatever, maybe if we had, like, an ice cream truck or a food truck, snow coach, some kind of something, and we give out, like, vouchers if whoever takes the, yeah,
Good for free concessions.
yeah. Or, like, we rented, like, they did the ice cream truck, or, I don't know how much that costs.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, and I'll tell you, my wife has come under fire a little bit for suggesting doing the same thing at the bar. But if you want to reach these parents, go to the bar. As bleak as that sounds, go to the bar. That's where they are. That's why they're not answering this, because they're busy at the bar.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly fine. I just think, as you're saying, I think that there is the need for some incentivization, to get this stuff going. And we wouldn't typically incentivize people to do things, but I think at this point, if you make those rare exceptions, we talked about for years, collaborate with the bar and get the beer tokens for, XYZ participation in this or that. It just is what it is, and I think that that's, since our goal is to not take those parents out of the bar,
And
we have to
do
figure out how to.
hit all three of our training establishments in town and ask, can we have whatever brand it is, Panther Pints, where 25 cents of every glass, every 7 days a week, or even if it's 1 day a week, goes to here, we could probably fund an FTE.
Well, that's what we're talking about. a lot of that game, you're right, yeah, just showing up to a game or something like that, or doing something and splitting proceeds with the booster club, I think is kind of how a lot of those discussions started at one point. And, that's a
So
lot of
donate
the long and short.
Donate the bar owner too?
Well, yeah, some of them particularly, extraordinarily supportive of the community.
Well, and yeah, and actually the owners of the River's Edge, they have, they actually, yeah, came to a board meeting and they, I think they're like just an older couple that has nothing but benevolence and money to blow. Like, I mean, it's just, they've asked, you know, what can we do? And so those owners are, yeah, they're definitely Cuban and ready to help. They've donated the use of their space for different like athletic awards nights. They've donated food for those nights. You know, it's always set up somehow where, you know, the attendees have to pay for something like drinks or, you know, any additional entrees, but boy, they'll stuff you on appetizers all night long, you know, so yeah, they're pretty giving of their time and energy.
That's fair.
Yeah. And I think too, Sportsman's is now owned by
Nick Harris.
yeah, Karis.
Oh,
Yeah. So they bought Larry's out of Houston too.
Don't know the one at,
oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know who that guy is.
Karis?
Nick
Well, like Karis Nursery?
Karis Nursery?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so
branching out.
right.
I do know Karis, I spent a lot of money there. The nursery, not their farm.
So, yeah, so I think that there is some diversity, I think, in terms of that, and I think if you find those proper fissures,
Gotcha.
yeah, you can expose the deeper cracks and
Right.
cracks if you will.
yes, enterprise. I have no doubt that 25 cents a glass, if someone did that, even if it was like the old, when the Idle House was in Missoula and they had the Stein Club, where people are like, here's your glass, and it's on here. Not an exaggeration, I don't think we would have an issue funding FTE based off that money.
Well, yeah, I mean, look what places have done with money. I mean, people's vices, you know, I mean, Colorado, I think, is the first state to go from the red to the black, like in a major way by using marijuana funds. You know, I mean, it just is what it is, you know, I mean, are we above taking their money? I think not, in my opinion. I mean,
Or we are a taxation district.
Yeah.
Force me.
I don't know, yeah. But, you know, like, Old Knoll Brewery, for example, in Frenchtown, they do like pint nights for different fundraisers and that kind of stuff, so. I guess I don't know if I've seen it from the actual school, or if it's just like the clubs at the school.
Well, that's
I
that.
don't know.
so the clubs, and I think, yeah, and I do think we have boots on the ground effort to actually make that look a little bit more savory, but I think in terms of like answering survey questions, you know, I mean,
See if you could
you
get
know,
some
because I
there.
mean, really, we live in a world where we're damned if we do, damned if we don't. So let's be damned if we do. Seriously.
Right.
As long as it amounts to us doing it.
Extra funds somewhere along the way.
No one's
Or,
going to
and
our
extra support, yeah, right? Okay, my last one is the comprehensive schools, I don't know if we wanna talk about that at all, our meeting that we had with OPI. And if we wanna talk about that in closed session, I mean, but it's all public stuff that I'm gonna talk to teachers about. But I don't know how much we've talked about it, or it's been talked about in the past, what it means to be a comprehensive school in the state of Montana.
We didn't talk about it that I can remember at all this last year. But when Superintendent Dressler was here, we did discuss it. And boy, did I have egg in my face in that meeting, and I was like, oh, we pulled ourselves out of the hole. And they were like, actually, you did not.
Yeah,
And so I was mistaken for one reason or another, and so I think that we are not up to date where we are. I was actually surprised at, you know, science being our most successful matrix, you know, I mean. So, yeah, I didn't know much about it, you know, in terms of reality.
right.
So the NC STEM is a good one.
Yeah, I didn't know much about it either, and so Ray and I met with OPI, and Alberton is comprehensive for our middle school and for our high school. Our elementary is not in comprehensive, they're targeted, no, I think they're fine. Our elementary is good to go, is fine. Our middle school and high school, both schools are comprehensive, which means we're in the bottom 5% of the state for our assessment scores. They look at attendance, they look at graduation rates, they look at your math and reading. And there was a fifth one that for some reason I'm not thinking of. But Alberton has been there for quite some time. And so our middle school has almost pulled themselves out of it. And we had a great conversation about like some of the things that we can do that I truly believe our middle school is close enough that we should be able to move there this year. But even Ray had said there are concerns with the high school and where we're at with some of the things and not sure if we can get there in 1 year with the high school. What they told us at this meeting was if we do not pull ourselves out of comprehensive, 26, 27, we go into rigorous status is what it's called. Rigorous status, you lose the extra funds they give you for comprehensive to help you out, and you lose some general fund money. And so it is it was brand new to me, I hadn't heard much about it, but it's a concern that I'm trying to figure out how to not scare staff, but to talk to them about, like, this is extremely serious. Like, we lost 2 people last year, other things with funds. Alberton can't afford to lose funds, and we can't afford to have kids that are not graduating high school or not getting the education that they need. So what does that look like to discuss with the middle school and high school, you know, those kinds of things, and to put that out there. I think we need to be transparent, a little more. I don't know, maybe the staff knows, maybe they don't know what that means.
So, was it 26, 27?
Yes, so we have this year.
I could see easily middle school solving that problem.
Yep.
Because I see it's marching forward.
Yep.
We solve the problem and it's gonna continue to march forward. I don't know how you rally the last 4 years that are up there when that damage started in kinder here through.
Or even with COVID.
Or
COVID's
And then COVID
really-
completely, right,
Well,
yes.
especially this class.
Yeah.
This class of seniors,
Oh, yeah,
we're screwed.
yeah.
Like, I mean, so let's go all at it, but I mean, this class of 11 boys and 1 girl that our sons are in.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Attendance was a big one, I remember them talking about that, like, is there something we can do for attendance, is there, I don't know, I want to put it out there to you
Well,
guys.
how close are we? I mean, is this one of those things where it's like,
The middle school is, like I said, we should be good to go, but the high school is gonna be very difficult. And so it was a point system, but I was very frustrated with her because I said, can I have these reports to share with the board? Well, there's, information on there that's, what did she say? And I was like, well, it's our school district though, it doesn't name kids or staff members. It just is telling us, so she gave me the website that I can get into and I can get some of the information. I thought that was the weirdest answer to me.
She was very ill prepared. Well, she actually just said she was
I
like,
took pictures of 2 of them.
And she started like kind of, yeah, well, when the guy showed up and he had White Sulphur Springs, I think or Twin Bridges, had Twin Bridges information up, so they were pretty well prepared. And I think they just wanted to speak to us and have us just be like, okay, and then not actually substantiate what they're saying.
And then we were asking questions that they were like, what? Yeah.
well, that begs the question of, is there a complete, you have 20 days to do it. Where effectively the high school is turned into a lockdown academic boot camp to target these, I mean, if that's what gets us over the line between losing staff,
Right?
that's our reality.
Is the
And
funding
maybe that goes away
only
eventually.
affect
But
high school?
It'll only
That-
affect our high school, yes. Yeah, yes.
But that might be our reality in order to get over this, and I hate to say teach to the test, but if we have to lock down freshmen to seniors, where, sorry guys, it's gonna, I don't wanna say suck, but.
Welcome, Mrs. Sear, you're terrible.
No, that's not what I'm saying, but it's
No,
just
I'm just
like,
kidding, but that's
This-
gonna be the perception of some staff and students and,
Well-
you know, like locking some of this down.
well, that sucks, but if that's what it's gonna take to make sure that we don't lose a staff member or 2, and then that's it all unravels after that.
Yeah,
And I don't think if we are down to who knows how many staff members for 4 years while we fix that, then what's the point of having this entire institution as an ongoing concern? So,
we're already short-staffed in that middle high school. We're barely getting through the classes that we have to. You know what I'm saying? We can't afford to lose another middle high school teacher because you have to have an English teacher, you have to have a math teacher, that is a 512 certified person. So even just thinking about that is hard to envision.
So, academic boot camp. No fun.
Academic boot camp.
No fun.
Welcome back to school. What were you gonna say?
I feel like we're already doing things like if kids are tardy a certain amount or missing certain days, they get lunch detention or something, or they can't go off campus. I know my son has done it where we have, been late many mornings. So there's times where he has lunch detention. I don't know if it's was in the office with Mr. Whiteman, or there's times where he had to earn that going off campus to the store at lunchtime. I thought that was kind of helping. I know it really averted my son mostly
Mhm.
from avoiding just staying home.
We need a closed campus. This leaving is, something else that I noticed that was locked down, that we didn't find out until the last, 2 weeks of school personally. Infinite Campus was not sending notices home to parents, families, etc. Kids that were failing attendance, etc., got no notices from Infinite Campus, and that was not turned on for the last 3 weeks of school. Unacceptable. We paid for this. Why is it going down? Because I think a lot of parents, speaking of parental involvement, had no idea that their kids were in such a hole that they couldn't recover at that point. That I think is fixed. That alone, I think, will make an impact on what's going on. But I was shocked. Having a kid that's straight A student, and then suddenly it's like, did you know they're failing this? What? Big problem. But we would have known that and been able to head something off months
But they
before.
fixed that
They
finally.
fixed it
Yes,
to
yes.
where it was salvageable and it wasn't salvageable.
Mhm.
I mean, it kind of was, but it's
The
just,
school had to turn on the ability to allow notifications,
it was literally a radio button.
and then it was fine,
Gotcha.
but there were no notifications the whole
And
school.
so now we have the notifications, but there are some major
would double
issues
check
with
that it's
Infinite
still
Campus
on.
right now because a number of high school grades didn't post. And I have to send deficiency letters to seniors, but we don't have posted grades for them. That was supposed to be done in April, these deficiency letters to our seniors. So parents know, we have a kid that's supposed to take 8 classes and we have a 7-period class, or 7-period day, like, the parent may not know that. And so I have to send these letters, but we first have to get that cleaned up. So we're still cleaning up Infinite Campus.
And that might not have been an issue in the several letters if it said no at the start of last school year.
Yeah,
Instead of 3 weeks into the beginning of the school.
right.
And I think as part of that too, parents also, when you sign the parental, there needs to be a code of conduct. Because we have parents that don't want to answer emails, don't want to answer the phone, don't want, like, to send your kid here, you need to agree to be contacted and you need to agree to be able to respond. We can't address these things if you aren't going to be involved, and you have to be involved. That's your societal obligation
It's the parent.
to be here, and we need to have some sort of agreement.
The
Not that
problem
they'll honor
is
it,
that
but-
most parents want to be contacted via text.
Mhm.
I will not text from my personal phone.
Nope.
I do not have a work phone, therefore I will not be texting.
And I would not require.
Yes,
you
right,
know,
but that's what they say, I don't check my email. Well, you should probably check it then.
Well, and there needs to
Or
be.
how many parents like their voicemail is full?
Yes, and their voicemail, I get that all the time, or their email is then full and then rejects it.
So we have to have some sort of
How do you hold parents?
district
accountable?
contract on there, or we need to find a way to contact via text or something. You need to contact the district. But we have to have buy-in from them, they have to agree. It's not like, well, contact me this way. No, sorry. This is part of your contract,
I
of
learned,
being part of a civilized society.
I learned today at my conference, it's not buying, it's commitment.
Commitment, okay. Your commitment to civilized society.
Yeah. So that just is another big thing with the comprehensive and where we go with that and how we support those high school kids.
Yeah, I'm not sure we'd be in this hole if that was fixed. A simple radio button. Simple radio button that we learned about through happenstance.
But again, if you have parents that aren't checking their email or checking their phone, they're not gonna get those notifications anyway. Some, do they come through text? Some, I don't know. Infinite Campus, possibly.
If you have the app, once it's on
I
there,
think it's
oh,
the
it finds you.
It'll come through the app, that's where it comes through is the
But I
Infinite
think
Campus app.
Chelsea said that all parents are gonna have to submit their forms through Infinite Campus, and you will have
Yep.
picture, so then everybody should.
Be able to see that. Okay. I didn't want to be a downer today. I wanted my first meeting to be really fun.
We've known a lot of this for a long time. This is not a downer at all.
I just think it's time to like, what are we gonna do moving forward? How are we going to support our kids? Number one, support our staff and support our community to like make those changes. And then there's some big changes that have to happen, and it is across the board. Parents, we do need more support from, like kids, you have to have buy-in commitment from the kids that they care even an iota about it. The ACT is the other one. ACT counts, and so you have a number of kids, even if they're not going to college, it still counts on our score. So those kids that might be going to trade school or going to the workforce, they're gonna take that in 30 seconds. And we talked about that at our superintendent's meeting today.
Could we as a district, speaking of buy-in here from the student body, as a district mandate as part of our graduation, community service component? Like, you need to do this to have some sweat equity in the game for your community.
I don't know how you do that, but it's on here. It's like, if you're gonna be part of this community, you better give back to this community, because this community's paying to teach you and educate you and do everything else. So, let's find something for you to do. Whether that's mowing lawns or finding something, painting fences, picking weeds, volunteering at the food bank, something where it's like, you've given back. Because I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I think there's too much take in modern society and not, how can I help others?
Mm-hmm. I don't know for sure if we could have that into graduation program.
Well, we'll get the legislature.
What about the kids that already have sports and then part-time jobs and then they want to go, like, have siblings to take care of?
I don't know how to solve it, but
Yeah. But how do you just engage the student body as a whole into community, and maybe it's not individual, but it's something that you tie in here? There was I got an email from the Orchard place today about connecting, the Orchard, what's the name of the Orchard? Yeah, I got a message from their president today asking if we were wanting to engage with them and do some,
rather than study
work with them.
you would do something. I mean, there's something that
And so I haven't responded yet because I just got the email today, but I'll look into that. I think it's a great community connection, I would guess,
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
so. This is they've done, the elementary has done and.
Yeah,
done
so
some things.
normally whenever homecoming, that Friday, we take the elementary kids up and they have like a morning up there. And then they pick out holes and they.
On Friday?
Yeah.
Okay, for those that want to go.
I think it's kind of traditionally because the granddaughter of the namesake of the Orchard was a staff member here,
Gotcha.
or at the,
Okay.
so that's, she still brings her class from the school.
Part of it. Okay. What are we doing on time? Oh, we,
We do our next portion.
I guess we could do some quick closed session. Hopefully the closed session won't take us too long. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about though, or want from me? Yes.
On the open house day,
Yep.
to maybe bring people or the idea for any other event, I know when I was at the face painting and the balloon animal guy would always break people in. Kids would have lined up for hours, and I know that would help bring some people in besides those if we're doing it.
They love bounce houses last night, and we had the Grizzly men's basketball team in Mountain View. I don't know what the cost is of that or how all those things happen, but
We were getting 98 people to show. And I don't know if that included kids, I think it was adults.
Okay.
So the turnout was massive. And there was a curriculum interaction here, which is huge.
Yeah, the parents have told us if you take care of dinner and you occupy the kids, love to show up. Yep. And And that's just been community engagement nights,
Right.
so not for the open house, but that's what we have provided for the open house, like not face painting the balloon animals, but we fed them every time, I think.
Yeah, Connie and I have already talked about the dinner, so I know we're gonna feed them. I kind of wanted to do something, just to introduce myself a little bit, maybe at the beginning or during the dinner at some point, just a small little presentation. I don't know how that'll work quite yet, but.
Feeds the strength, can you play basketball?
No,
You can throw a softball, I know that.
that was years ago too.
I think, I mean, having the kids outside and, I think Nicole's idea is wonderful, or any variation of that to
Yep.
occupy the kids, and maybe have some kind of staff out there, as a monitoring system, and something, something like that. You'll have parents front and center, and you can
Okay.
totally introduce yourself.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome. We'll work a little bit more on that too.
and I think we just
Want
need
to
to,
get the word out.
hype it up.
Yeah, I agree. Okay,
Yeah, get a hold of that communications person that we have.
I'm meeting with her tomorrow afternoon.
Okay.
See what she can do to help me out with that.
Yes. She can be a little schmucky sometimes, so.
All right,